The story of the Harper. There was once a harper who was known as one of the greatest of his age. The nightingale was beside herself with his skills, and his beautiful voice turned one rapture into 100. His breathing was extraordinary, bringing great gatherings to listen, and when he sang, the dead would rise again, like Seraphil, whose voice was able to bring souls back into the bodies of the dead. His music could make elephants grow wings. The ears of normal humans cannot hear the spiritual notes that emit from the prophets, from their many sins deafen them, and the highest and most extraordinary note is the note of the heart, which cannot be heard by normal humans, for humans are prisoners, captive to the entrapments of ignorance. As time passed, the harper grew old, and from the resulting weakness, his soul was no longer a falcon, but a catcher of gnats. His back became bent like the back of a wine jar, and his brows grew over his eyes. His once charming, soul-refreshing voice grew croaking and worth nothing to anyone. The tone that had once been the envy of Venus was now like the bray of an old donkey. What fair thing fails to be foul? What roof fails to be straw? Except the voice of inspiration, whose breath blasts a trumpet for the resurrection of life. Theirs is the heart for all hearts to be drunk. Theirs is the world where all worlds are born. The saint is magnet to thought and voice, the inward delight to inspire and mystify. And so with age, the minstrel grew feeble and could not earn his keep. He had to borrow even to eat bread. He said, "You have given me long life and respite, God. You've done me many favors, even though I'm a wretched person. For 70 years I've committed sin, and yet you have never withheld your generosity and bounty from me. I cannot earn any more, so today I am your guest, and I will play the harp for you." He took his harp and went in search of God in a graveyard in Medina, all the time crying of his misfortune. As he went, he cried, "I pray for the price of harp strings, for he will accept my poor coin." And he played the harp for a long time, and then, still weeping, lay down on a gravestone with his harp as a pillow. Sleep overtook him, and his soul escaped from his body, letting harp and harper go, darting away from them. The soul of the harper was suddenly freed from the pain of the world, entering the vastness of the spirit world. Once in this vast place, the soul begged to stay. If they just let me stay, I'd be happy in spring gardens of now, drunk with this far-reaching plain and mystic field. No head or foot, I'd continue my travels. No lip or tooth, I'd still eat sugar. Memory and thought would be free of my brain. I'd play with the dwellers of heaven. In blindness I'd see handless big roses, my soul in a sea of honey, Jove's fountain to wash and refresh me. The minstrel's soul in this fabulous dream received a divine command and lingered there in that vastness to find God's mercy and benediction. And so the minstrel waited and waited for the voice of God, who instructed his servant, Umar, to save the old man from his pitiful condition, for he was favored by God. Umar jumped at God's command and found that he had been given 700 dinars to take to the old minstrel so that he could go to the market and buy silk as strings for his harp. Umar was to tell the harper that God had instructed him to say that once the money had run out, he should return to the graveyard again. Umar ran to the graveyard and searched everywhere for this favorite of God, but all he could find was the poor old man lying on the gravestone. He couldn't believe that this was the one, and so continued to search until he was exhausted. How can an old harper be the chosen of God? But then he could still not find anyone else in the graveyard, so he sat down next to the old man, and while pondering what to do, he sneezed, and the old Harper jumped in the air, landing on his feet full of tears and trembling. Umar saw that the old man was ashamed and pale from his condition, so he said to him, "Don't be afraid, don't run away, for I have brought you something wonderful from God. Sit down beside me, for God has even made me love your face, and I wish to whisper his message closely in your ear, to tell you of this divine favor. God sends you greetings and asks how you are managing in this distressful time of boundless sorrow. He sends you also pieces of gold to pay for silk. You should spend it all, and then come back here to this place." The old man heard what Umar told him and trembled all over, biting his hand and tearing at his clothing. Oh wow, what a unique God. The poor old fellow almost turned to water out of shame, and after he had wept for a long time and his sadness had gone beyond all bounds, he took his harp and broke it into pieces. "Harp that has barred me from God, harp that has brought me from the highest way, harp that has drunk my blood for so many years, harp that has made my face dirty, disgraced from divine perfection. Have mercy, generous God, who keeps pace with my sin. God who gave life with value each day, I have breathed it away in treble and bass. In minding my music, I was mindless of parting. In memory of the minor muse, I forgot the major heart. Help me with myself, O Lord, who is nearer me than I." Umar advised the harper to give up his moaning and groaning and come into the present, where he would more easily find the reality of God, and that seeking was only seeking, for there was nothing to seek. And the harper came to sudden realization, and his heart was awakened to the truth.